Hello, and welcome back for another week of Read It First by Lisa Gray, a podcast dedicated to discussing a new book each week. This week, the discussion is over The Perfect Marriage by Jeneva Rose. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel so you never miss the next discussion. Alright, so I am delving straight into spoilers, so listeners beware. Did anyone else not see that Sarah was the mastermind behind this entire murder? Because, holy crap. So this was the second time that I read the book because I thought it was very devious the first time. And now reading it the second time, there's still a lot of times where I'm like, it really doesn't feel like Sarah knew. But in some of the ways that it phrases things, you can kind of tell, okay, she had an idea. But I really didn't expect the first time I read it that she was the one who killed Kelly. I saw it as Bob up until he had an alibi. I saw it as maybe Matthew, considering he seemed to have some sort of thing for Sarah. I saw it as Scott, the ex-husband. And of course I saw it as Adam as well. But I definitely enjoyed the twist. And there were many things that really just didn't add up. Some were definitely red herrings just to really put us off the trail. So at the beginning of the book, we are looking at Sarah and Adam. They're celebrating their 10th wedding anniversary, and overall, from the two viewpoints, they seem to have a great, loving marriage. The kind of exception to that is that when Adam opens the trash can, he sees that there is a glittery card in the trash. And he asks Sarah what it is as he pulls it out, and she mentions that it's just a card from his mother. Well, it's a congratulations for lasting 10 years. It was a surprise to Eleanor, which is Adam's mom. So it's very obvious from this point that Sarah and Adam's mom do not get along. From both perspectives, it really seems that Adam and Sarah desire each other and really want this marriage to work. They're both thinking of having sex, but Sarah's like, nah, I gotta get off to work, which is fair. She is a top criminal defense attorney for very high power executives in Washington, D.C., and Adam is a struggling writer. He's written one good book that had a great following, but all of his subsequent books were complete flops. Apparently, he was a one-hit wonder. So, at Adam's bequest, Sarah bought the lake house so that he could hopefully improve his writing. But when Adam arrives at the lake house the very first time, Sarah is busy working. And he ends up meeting Kelly. So we'll kind of go into that a little bit more. But the day of their 10th wedding anniversary, Adam heads down to the lake house while Sarah heads off to work. So just to keep in mind that she is a named partner in the law firm she works at, which means that she had to put in a lot of effort, especially being a woman. When we jump down to the lake house, Adam is writing. He's finished, I think it's 3,000 words for the day, which he felt was pretty good. It's not bad, but it's not great. And about that time, he gets a knock on the door. He knows it's not Sarah. He opens it, and this pretty little blonde thing is standing there. I believe she was blonde. Her name is Kelly. So Kelly is a waitress from Seth's Coffee, which is a little coffee shop near their lake house. When Adam is going back in memory of his meeting with Kelly, she's quite a free spirit who is definitely more than open. And by that, I mean that she's wearing a thin white shirt without a bra, and he talks about the fact that he can see her nipple outline easily through the shirt. Well, I disagree with the idea that women ever are asking for it. She was very flirty, and she went to Adam's home shortly after meeting him, like the same day, within a few hours of just talking to him while she was waiting on him. And as soon as they get into their Adam's lake house, him and Kelly are ripping each other's clothes off and having sex on the floor of the entryway. So right there you can tell that Kelly does not hold much esteem for keeping her legs closed. So Adam and Kelly started their affair about 18 months prior to the 10-year anniversary of Sarah and Adam, and also prior to Kelly's murder. The entire weekend that Adam and Sarah are supposed to be celebrating their anniversary down at the lake house, Sarah is busy working hard. And Adam, on the other hand, is busy having sex with Kelly all over the lake house. One night after having sex with Kelly, Sarah texts Adam something along the lines of, "Hey, I'm going to be free in a couple hours. I'm going to take tomorrow off." And he replies that he'd be home later that evening. Sarah looks at her assistant Anne and tells her, "Let's go out for drinks." Anne will do anything for Sarah, so she readily jumps at Sarah's offer to go get drinks. They're good friends in the office anyways. So Adam's like, screw it, got a little bit more time. He has sex with Kelly another time before they finally fall asleep. Now, through all of this, they're also drinking a lot of scotch. So when Adam finally wakes up, it's after 1 a.m. and he kind of is like, oh shit, I meant to be home tonight. I need to leave. So he reaches over to find Kelly wet. He can't awaken her and he's like, I must have just tired her out that much. He gets dressed. He wipes his hands off onto his pants. He goes out into the kitchen, leaves a note, and just leaves for the night. Well, of course, at the end of the book, or even in the middle, we discover that Kelly wasn't wet the way that Adam was thinking. She was covered in blood, and she wasn't in a deep sleep. She was dead. I would think that Kelly would have been cold between the whole blood loss and the whole being dead thing. But I don't know. I guess it kind of depends on how hot the lake house was. Maybe he just didn't notice. Our body temperatures do decrease a little bit in sleep, but she's been dead for at least 2 hours. She should have started to cool off. Now, the whole smell aspect, I could write off to the idea of nose blindness. Because when he was sleeping, he was smelling the blood. He woke up to it and probably didn't even notice the iron-like smell of blood. Plus, men probably are not that familiar with the smell of blood, unlike us women. When you have to smell it monthly, you get very familiar with what it smells like. So perhaps he really didn't notice the blood. Now, the whole wiping off the blood on his pants, well, I just am going to hope that his pants were black, which would hide the color of blood. Otherwise, you would think at some point he would have noticed that there was blood on his hands or his pants until after he changed and washed his hands. So there is a possibility that because he arrived home late and he didn't want to stir Sarah, or whenever he was at the lake house he didn't want to stir Kelly, he did everything in the dark. So maybe he washed his hands and didn't notice that there was a dark blood coming off of it. I don't know. So whenever he arrives home, he does end up awakening Sarah, which I'm wondering if it really was him awakening her or if she was waiting for him to get home because she was excited to know if he realized that Kelly was dead. But Sarah really deters Adam by telling him that she wants a baby. He is thrilled by this, as this is one thing that he has been hoping for all along. I suppose this could have been a way to cover up the blood and ensure that he was more focused on her than anything else. I don't know. This is kind of a big plot hole, but it's fine. The book is still pretty good overall. So the following morning, Sarah goes off to work like normal, and Adam ends up getting arrested for Kelly's murder. He fights with the police whenever they're taking him in, which is very idiotic. I mean, yeah, they told him that he was under arrest for potentially murdering his mistress. That's definitely something to get angry about. But if he knows he's innocent, why fight? That just makes you look guilty. Anyways, Kelly's husband seemed to be very abusive based on some of the background story that you got to read about, and based on the text messages that she had received the night before that were progressively more angry and threatening. Later, of course, it's found out that Scott is one of the police officers for the station where Adam gets taken into. I kind of found it amusing that Adam never figured this out, considering Kelly had told Adam that when she was bruised and beaten up, she couldn't go to the police. My first thought is, if someone is afraid to go to the police, that means that their spouse is either associated with the police or is the police. Like, why else would you not go? When Adam gets arrested and he can't get a hold of Sarah, he ends up calling his mother, Eleanor. He feels as though her baby boy can do no wrong. At one point, there is even a comparison between Adam and Eleanor to Ted Bundy and his mother. Basically, the idea that a mother never believes the worst in her child and never believes that her child is capable of committing murder. Eleanor is quite a bitch. She is definitely not a well-liked character, and she's especially horrible to Sarah, as she believes this is all Sarah's fault because she should have been more focused on being a wife who is supportive of her husband and not as focused on her work. But I mean, without Sarah's work, they would not have been able to afford anything, considering Adam didn't bring any money in. Eleanor definitely has very old-fashioned thoughts on what a woman should be to her husband and totally puts all of the blame on Sarah for Adam cheating on her for the last 18 months. Scott is, I feel, kind of also a red herring in the novel. He is a convenient scapegoat and something to kind of give Kelly's past a little bit more substance, which does play into the book, I have to say. Scott is definitely a potential killer in the story, especially after seeing how his lack of anger and impulse control, where he beat Adam and hit Sarah. The book also discusses that Scott had made some evidence disappear during Kelly's trial when she was in court for allegedly killing her first husband in Wisconsin. At that time, Kelly Summers' name was Jeneva, and her deceased husband's name was Greg Miller, which again, this plays part into the book because the lawyer we know as Bob actually is Nicholas Robert Miller, Greg's brother. And that plays into quite a big part of the entire story. Let's talk a little bit about the whole police work, how sloppy it is. I mean, for a little department, they still did a lot of bad quality police work. If there's murder and you do not have the resources needed, just call for another office to come help you. Like, don't let someone get away with murder because you don't have the funds and the resources. It kills me that they only tested Kelly's blood, but they did not test Adam's right away. And they really didn't test much in the lake house to discover where the rohypnol that was found in Kelly's blood came from. The crime scene should have had everything tested right away. I mean, they didn't even go through Adam's clothing to test it for blood, just in case. I mean, did they test the drains at the lake house or at the primary residence in DC to see if there was blood residue? Did they check Adam's car? Like, what were they doing? Because obviously they weren't doing their job. They really failed at the whole crime scene procedure, just based on my little knowledge of forensic science. Then, of course, we find out later that when Kelly was killed, she had not one, not two, but 3 different sets of DNA in her vagina. DNA in the vagina can last up to a week, which means that she had sex with 3 different people within a week. 2 of the sets of DNA were confirmed as Scott and Adam's early on. Then, later on, towards the very end, it's discovered that the third set of DNA belonged to Sheriff Stevens. Only found out because Sarah convinced Matthew, her longtime friend and prior fellow law student. He went and collected a bunch of DNA from a couple of the guys and found out that, oh, that third set of DNA, Sheriff Stevens. Sarah, of course, did not bring this up in court because, as far as Adam was aware, she never figured out who that third set of DNA belonged to, because the guy, Jesse, that they were trying to put it on was cleared for it. And Sarah was like, you know what? Sheriff Stevens, with his shoddy work, actually helped me out with this case, so I'll leave it be. My other surprise was whenever Sheriff Stevens kept hitting on Sarah and actually took her to the crime scene. I mean, I don't know procedure with crime scene, but I really feel like this is a breach in protocol. I tend to think that as long as something is considered an active crime scene, no one but police should ever be on site. Again, I think all of this has to do more with Sheriff Stevens trying to get in Sarah's pants, but I don't know. The whole aspect that he was sleeping around with Kelly kind of puts it as not a big stretch to think that he was trying to get in Sarah's pants and sleep with her. Oh, and then let's talk about Rebecca. She is definitely also kind of a red herring, because when she introduced herself to Adam, who was under house arrest at that point, she tells him that she's a reporter, and he believes her. What a moron. I mean, anyone can say anything. You need to look up that stuff beforehand. But Adam is just so wanting someone to believe he's guilty. So he doesn't care. He pays Rebecca $5,000 in order to help him out and try to help figure out who killed Kelly. I think it's kind of funny that he has more faith in a stranger than in his wife. But in the end, I guess that's fair because his wife is the one who framed him. I really wonder if Sarah was slipping more things into his food and drinks, which is probably the only reason that she brought him stuff, because he acts so erratically throughout the entire book. From fighting police officers, to escaping, to stealing Rebecca's car to drive up to DC because he realizes Anne is the one who is blackmailing him with the picture. It's just not a good look for someone who's trying to convince everyone that he's innocent. Anyways, Rebecca actually turns out to be a PI, which Sarah tells Adam that the PI was hired by Scott. But in reality, she was hired by Bob to help throw Adam off track and to just keep him really busy thinking that Sarah was doing something. Now, bringing Bob into this picture was seriously devious, and it gave more reasonable doubt. I have to say, up until Sarah is being addressed about Adam's reason for arrest, she seemed clueless to the affair. I really thought that she had no idea about that affair in the lake house, because from her viewpoint, she seemed completely shocked. But of course, at the end, we knew that, thanks to Bob, she knew about it. See, Bob had been watching Kelly/Jenna in hopes of getting her back for killing his brother, which he honestly believed that she committed. But she, of course, got acquitted because of the fact of Scott getting rid of evidence. So Bob went to Sarah when he found out that Kelly and Adam were having an affair. He was hoping to blackmail her into giving up her position to him. Now, I don't know where things went crazy here, but Sarah was definitely angry. She definitely wanted revenge on Adam, considering she had put Adam's priorities first in her book. She had supported him. She had made sure that he had everything he needed, and yet he was truly unloyal. Bob, I can understand him wanting to revenge Kelly/Jenna. I mean, that's your brother that she killed, and there was good reason that she should have gotten convicted, but thanks to Scott, it went away. And Sarah, she already helped kill her mother, so, or better phrasing, she helped her mother's death along. Between the drugs and the men, she probably wouldn't have lived much longer. But I don't understand how she went from, oh, Bob is trying to blackmail me, to, hey, Bob, let's kill Kelly and frame my husband for it. I mean, conspiracy of murder, I'm pretty sure that Bob could have, like, turned Sarah in for that, but they both just went along with it. And as Sarah says at one point, if you want something done right, you do it yourself, which is why she's the one who actually stabbed and killed Kelly. Now, Matthew is sort of another red herring. He is a friend of Sarah's, and in the end, to his children, she is Aunt Sarah. Honestly, I really thought that Matthew was the unknown male caller on the night that Sarah talks about having a male visitor while Adam is in house arrest. I knew it wasn't Adam, but I really, really thought it was Matthew until at the end she was getting ready to marry Bob the day after Adam had his lethal injection, and she had a 6-year-old with him. So I'm thinking that there was an affair going on during all of this. Now, I do have to say, I loved how in the end, Sarah was still controlling every last encounter with Adam, especially the one right before his lethal injection. Now, Adam had continued to love Sarah for the last 10 years or so after he was deemed responsible for murdering Kelly. Sarah finally admits at the last second to Adam, as he is being removed from the antechamber to the lethal injection chamber, that she knows for a fact that he did not kill Kelly. I mean, for Adam, what the hell? That's a tailspin. What if she loves him like she should, like he thinks that she does? Why would she have let him rot in jail and go on for lethal injection if she knows he's innocent? So the last few seconds, he finally comes to realize that Sarah killed Kelly and framed him. So the last little bit of the book is Sarah discussing how she did it. How she put the Rohypnol in the scotch, thinking that, well, Adam will drink it, and really, who cares if Kelly does? As long as Adam's passed out, well, if Kelly comes to, who cares? She's gonna get killed regardless. Now, the positive is for Sarah that the sheriff's office did such a shitty job that they didn't catch that Adam also had Rohypnol in his system. Otherwise, there could have been a lot of plausible doubt. But I would also think that I would have been looking at the wife of the guy who was having an affair, because she would have every right to be angry about the affair. Why would Adam kill her? It just seems really weird. But Sarah discusses that she placed a plastic sheet over Adam to protect him from the blood splatter, which is smart and not so smart. I mean, it probably would have been smarter for her to let him get covered in blood splatter and then just try to clean him up. But I suppose she was concerned that trying to clean him up would have caused him to wake up. But there would have been more of Kelly's DNA on him. I mean, there's already Kelly's DNA all over him, considering how many times they had sex, but still. And the entire time that Sarah's recalling how she's stabbing Kelly to death, she comments that Adam never even stirred. My other hope is that I'm hoping that both Adam and Sarah are right-handed, because, I mean, that would account for the angle of the stabbing. But I feel like the depth of the wounds probably would have been a little different, considering males have considerably more upper body strength than females. There's just a lot to it that really should have been addressed that wasn't. But the twist was phenomenal. I never ever would have expected that it was Sarah who killed Kelly, but talking about just blowing your mind. And I thought it was interesting that Sarah didn't force Adam to divorce her while he was on death row, which I'm not sure if that was a kindness or kind of a mean thing for her to do. But as soon as she was a widow and she had all the paperwork through, she was marrying Bob, who seemed to be her perfect match. Because, I mean, if he's willing to help conspire murder with her, well, seems like it's a good match in heaven, so to say. Anyways, I really hope that you enjoyed it, and really also thought that, holy crap, not what I anticipated. But next week we will discuss One Flew Over a Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Casey. So this next discussion will probably be a little smaller because the book is smaller as well. So the synopsis of One Flew Over a Cuckoo's Nest is tyrannical nurse Ratched rules her ward in an Oregon State mental hospital with a strict and unbending routine, unopposed by her patients who remain cowed by mind-numbing medication and the threat of electric shock therapy. But her regime is disrupted by the arrival of McMurphy, the swaggering, fun-loving trickster with a devilish grin who resolves to oppose her rules on behalf of his fellow inmates. His struggle is seen through the eyes of Chief Bromden, a seemingly mute half-Indian patient who understands McMurphy's heroic attempt to do battle with the powers that keep them imprisoned. Ken Casey's extraordinary first novel is exuberant, ribald, and devastatingly honest portrayal of the boundaries between sanity and madness. So again, thank you for listening to this week, and remember to subscribe to the Read It First channel so you'll never miss out on a new discussion.